Iată care sunt principalele știri ale
Come with me to find out who you used to be, who you are, and what you'll become. Follow me if you want to feel, enjoy, and admire. Let your worries behind and enjoy a simple smile, an innocent touch, and a mesmerizing view. Come with me to Radia.
Here about Radia, and we have Katarzyna Gruszecka-Szpikała, who's Deputy Mayor of Gdynia, joining us from Gdynia. Thank you very much for joining us, Deputy Mayor. We can't hear you.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're very welcome. So what we want to do in this session, because we've very much heard the business side of things, we want to hear now the municipal side of things, the local authority side of things, in terms of your priorities, etc. We do actually have a couple of slides that Elena will give, just so we know a little bit about ADLO and Radia. And which part of Romania is Radia? Over to you. On the western border, okay. So,
thank you, Richard. As mentioned before, Romania, an emerging market, and Radia is a city located on the western border of Romania. As you already saw, it's an Art Nouveau city, a very complex city, and a city which is growing a lot in the last years. And I would like to tell you what have we done in the last 10 years and what does our project mean in the next 10 years. And also maybe talking about the involvement of ESG as a governmental point of view, as a local government. The Local Development Agency is a public company owned by the local municipality of Radia, and our main focus is industrial platforms. In the last 10 years, Radia attracted a lot of EU funds, over 600 million euro attracted from EU funds and invested in infrastructure. This made Radia a very accessible city and very interesting for investment point of view. We already built 4 industrial platforms with over 230 hectares. And here we attracted more than 115 companies which invested over 420 million euros in developing and growing together with the city. One of the most important projects that we are focused on is always on all the private companies which are coming to us, and from the local point of view, we are trying always to be partners. How do we do it? We are paying attention to what our residents in our industrial platforms need. And from this point of view, what have we done is being suppliers of energy in our industrial platforms, building a kindergarten, building service platforms inside the industrial parks, having international schools, now building a block of flats for all the fight that the companies are dealing in keeping the employees and attracting workforce to Oradea and the Bihor County. Also making a lot of partnerships, public-private partnerships. For example, we noticed that the IT sector needs a boost, and for this we created a partnership with the local IT companies, and we are investing in startups. So every year we are putting money in order to increase the environmental private sector of IT. And what we are focused on is always on increasing the level of life in the city. As a local government, what can we do is to improve the way that we work. So we have urban planning, which allows everybody to be able to construct fast. We do have the building permit in 7 days issued, which helps a lot when you are building. Yes. Also, giving.
The average or?
No, this is not average. This is specific for our region because we build it up like this. As mentioned, we are very, very focused on what the investors need, and we are trying to come up with all the type of the solutions in order to help them. We do believe that the partnership between private sector and public sector is so important in order to succeed, because a city is growing together with the companies that are located inside the city. We work together if you want to increase the level of life. And what are we doing in the next steps? We are building an intermodal terminal. We are having a cargo terminal build up, which will be finished this year. And we are transforming the old industrial ways to new R&D sectors. We are building science and technological parks. We are building business incubator focused on creative activities. We are having a lot of partnership with the universities. We are trying to attract investors which are very focused on this type of research and development. Of course, in the sectors that we can cover in our region, which is very important. From ESG point of view, what are we doing? We have public transportation in all our industrial platforms. We are increasing the way of mobility inside the city, and how do we develop the metropolitan area. This means that we are building new connection roads. We are building a lot of bicycle ways, also a lot of ways to get to the city by foot. Also, the city is organized to have a lot of pedestrian areas. So all the parking is taken outside the city center. Radia is one of the largest thermal spa area in Romania. This means that we have a lot of thermal water. Now we are also using that thermal water to heat a part of the city. Of course, using it in medicine, in hospitals, and trying to get the best of our natural resources. Regarding the industrial platforms, what have we done in the last years is to come up with a solution to use solar panels, also on the buildings. And also, we have the central thermal heating system, which previously, like in old communist cities, were using coal. Now we turn it into a turbine which uses gas but also produces energy. And all these platforms, which typically were covered by ash from this former coal plant, now we are turning them into solar plants. Why? Because the land otherwise can't be used. And in this way, we can use it in a formal way, and also to try to increase the way that we are participating to environmental, social, and also governmental support.
Great.
Thank you.
Because we'll come back to drill down on some of these points. So thank you very much. Katarzyna, from your point of view, I want to ask you about Gdynia's view on ESG. But first of all, we last met at MIPIM and just before MIPIM when the refugee situation was first hitting Poland. And it was a very overwhelming situation for you. And this is very much ESG in action. I'm just wondering how things, because at the beginning you were hit, as a huge surprise. Several tens of thousands of Ukrainian citizens guests came to Gdynia. How is it now? Are you managing to assimilate? And then second question about ESG, how you view ESG.
Thank you very much, Richard, for your question. It's very important to me that you remember about the refugee crisis, because I find it the most important thing we have to deal with, not only in Gdynia or Poland, but also in Europe. And I also think this is one of the biggest game changers that we need to face. I can say we are better. The first crisis has ended, and now we just need to start think strategically. To find better places for accommodation for our guests, because it's simply not possible to live where they live now for more than a month or two, and then to find a good job positions for them in order to make them able to earn money. At least, if not for, let's say, always, at least for time they're going to spend here. What makes it a bit more difficult than it looks like is that the Ukrainian citizens usually do not know how long the term is. Many of them have already went back to Ukraine, even though it's very unsafe now. Some others are still waiting and they are ready for a return on every day. And of course, there is also a group who has decided to stay here for a year or 2 years, or maybe at least some months, and they need basic assistance. A big challenge for us is also to organize education for their children. And it's important to underline that absolutely most of the people who came to Poland are women and children, especially very young children. So our duty is not only to educate them, but to grant a childcare in order to make their mothers able to get and work. So that is what we are considering now. It's really very hard. It's difficult. It's emotionally not an easy experience. And of course, we need a lot of money. So as I usually say, economy is basics. Every time you need to do something very nice or good for local society, you need to be able to pay for it. That's why we always talk about economy. And now, coming to your second question, quite often I am asked by people whether is it something new or whether we have changed anything in last years while ESG factors got, let's say, more trendy or more popular. And then I usually answer that ESG might be new, or at least not so old to business, but not to local authorities. Because we do not have clients, we have our residents and taxpayers who finally ESG factors were always crucial for anybody who deal with public services. Of course, there are differences in how we make transport in the city more sustainable. And we are quite happy that that we are close to the final step. But then the pandemic came and everything got changed. Now, when we see our results, it's after the pandemic. Let's say it's after. The national government says it's after, but formally it looks like that. There are no more obstacles to use public transport. and we still cannot get the same level of passengers that we had before it all started. And we think that the change of patterns is big, and we will need a lot of time to come back to the point that we had before it all started. So challenges are changing. Sometimes we need to do the same job for the second time, which is a bit frustrating, but still it's simply a job to do. Of course, if we speak about ESG, we should divide our aims and challenges and problems and changes into E, like green buildings, climate change, smart growth, which is very important in terms of investing and acquiring investments, and water use, very important for my city, who lies at the seashore and which is quite hilly. What brings a lot of problems with waters, especially with one dangerous river. Then S like social, so all the issues connected with human rights, diversity, labor relations, but also community development. Community development is for me one of the most important things, because if you have a strong community, you can do a lot of nice things. Also, you can ask people to follow you into the future. In the previous panel, somebody has said, I'm sorry, but I had a very poor quality of sound and I wasn't able to get who was the speaker. But one person said that political will is the only thing to speed up the change. I generally agree, but political will might not be enough if it hasn't if it is not strongly based in community. So building community is one of the most important factors. It may sound strangely, it may sound like something what you cannot count, contrary to, let's say, water use or factors connected with green buildings, but it's not less important, at least not less important, if not more. And then G, like government, I would say it's more important and more, the national government is more in charge of keeping the factors, important the factors of G, like governance. But what is important for us is, of course, anti-corruption. I can't say we have a big problem, but you always need to be very careful about such issues. Board diversity and board independence. Board independence is quite important for us, especially nowadays. You may know that political situation in Poland is quite complicated, that local governments suffer from lack of money, which are donated by the national government, and that independence might be limited not by the law or by the change of the constitution, but also by the level of money that are granted from the national government. So looking for being resilient also in terms of money is also very important for me. If you ask me to sum up what is the most important among ESG factors, I would say climate change, water use, building public community, and building strong resilience, especially now after the first shock that was the pandemic, and after the second hit, which is unbelievable and which is called war. Resilience is the most important factor.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Katarzyna. Actually, you've asked all my questions for me. You've summed up very well the whole diversity of this topic. And I want to ask you, Elena, you've been in the conference so far.
Yes.
And as one of the two representatives at the conference from the local authorities, what has resonated with you? What has surprised you, or what would you challenge, or any comments you want to make from what you've heard from the business side of things?
I just want to mention that I totally agree with the lady, Katarzyna, and I already saw her at MIPIM in Cannes, and I am so happy to be on the same panel with you. And I totally resonate with already exposed. I think that our cities are very much alike, and we do confront with the same issues, maybe not issues, let's call them challenges. And from what was already spoken, what I remained with, it's always on our focus on what is important for the community, and what are the perspective from the private point of view. And I am so happy to hear that private companies focus on investing more and building sustainable buildings and paying attention to resources and how they are using energy, water, how important it is for them to understand the sustainability of their investment. This is for me very important. I would like to invite anybody who is interested. I am here until the end of the session today, so whoever has questions regarding Romania or Radia or possible investments here, I am here to answer all your questions. And also I would like to send an invite to everybody to get to know us, to come and visit, try to see what is the possibilities that we have in the region. And of course, if you are interested for investment, we are open for that and to present you the opportunities that Romania is already preparing to offer. So thank you. This is what I wanted to mention.
Okay, thank you. And what is the population of Radia?
The population of Radia is about 220,000 inhabitants. Together with the metropolitan area, we go up to 280,000 inhabitants.
Okay, so a large city.
I'd got a quick question, actually. I was at COP26 at Glasgow, and we did quite a lot with Glasgow, particularly with Impact Magazine. And one of the interesting topics there was that, that everybody is setting these goals, but actually it's mostly the cities and the regions that have to carry out the goals that are set by governments. So it'd be interesting just to get from you, maybe, Katarzyna, just how much of a challenge is that? Is it that you're ahead of where the government is, or are the, because ultimately you've got to deliver the sort of carbon neutral future in a way?
It's quite a complicated issue. Generally, there are a lot of goals that we can set independently. However, you're right, there are also some of them that are set by the national government. And generally, according to Polish law system, if there's a goal that is set by the national government, we as a local community should gather special money or other measures in order to implement them. Of course, it doesn't work like that at all in reality, and I don't mean only last years when the political situation got harder, but I can't simply remember any situation from previous year, or hardly any situation from previous years. I've been at my position for 8 years when it worked like it should have. But I can say that generally we have a huge amount of independence, and our ability to create our own strategies and goals is most important, because I can't see a possibility to really govern if you cannot start with setting the goals and then you keep realizing them. If somebody sets the goals for you, it may not work.
Great, really interesting. I think one of the other things that would be interesting just to pick up is how much, and this is for either of you as well, is, obviously there's a lot of talk about investors and occupiers wanting to drive forward a lot of these ESG goals. How much are you talking to the investors and the occupiers as part of that? So, how much of it is it a partnership, which is kind of what came out of the panel in a way?
There are generally two channels that we're communicating them. One is very friendly, and I can call it a talk. This also has a lot to do with building community, because we just try to encourage what we think, to propose it as a good way of acting and behavior, to present, let's say, chances and so on. But of course, there is also a second channel, which has something to do with the authority. From my point of view, there's no bigger wealth than spatial planning, and we have this authority. So first of all, we try to talk, but sometimes we need to set things very precisely, and then we use the tool we have, which is spatial planning.
When you say special planning, what exactly do you mean specifically?
I mean preparing spatial plans.
Oh, spatial. Oh, sorry. Okay.
According to Polish law, are a kind of legislation that an investor must fulfill.
Okay, sure.
This is exactly what we are doing also in Radia. And I think that it is important to mention what Katarina already explained a lot of times, that to build up a strong community, it should be the focus on every local government, because in this way you can really reach up your goals. And yes, building strategies and showing them to the community and working together with the community, this is the way to do things in a better way. I totally agree.
I think on that note,
That's great. Yeah, thanks very much. Really pleased that we could get you joining there from Gdynia, and I still haven't been to Gdynia, and I promise I will. So that's on my agenda for this time, and I've now got to add Romania as well. So I will definitely. I promise you that if I am back here next year, and I haven't visited either of those cities, then I'm in deep trouble. So
we'll hold you to account.
Exactly. Yes,
Yeah,
that's good. Great. Thank you very much, everybody.
Well, Gdynia is beautiful, and I'm sure, so it's no hardship to go there. You must go.
Great, thanks very much.
You both
Thank you
for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Waiting for you.